right, so we're going to start something that is different and separate from exponents. So I need you to have your notebook and a pencil and a highlighter for me. And you're just going to open to the very next page that you have. Just go to the next blank page. Please don't skip any pages. So if your next blank page is on the back of a page, let's do that. Will you give me a heading that says 6.NSO.1.1, and then I'm going to put a dash. This entire standard goes with inequalities. It's inequalities. We're going to talk about that word in just a second. Inequalities on a number line. I'm going to underline this. Okay, the actual term inequalities. I know it's weird, we don't normally highlight something in your heading, but if you can highlight that for me, and then I'm just going to draw a little arrow that comes down from there. That word inequalities honestly just means that you're going to be comparing two different values. So up until now, when you've been given a number line, it typically will start at 0 or it will start at 1, and it will just grow and continue to have the numbers increase from there. So this would be one of the first times, if not the first time, that you will be introduced to negative numbers, which means numbers that are in front of where 0 would be, so they're numbers that would be less. So I'm going to ask you to give me a line, and typically a number line has a little arrow on either side, and that just means that even if your number stops at 9, that there would be numbers that would continue on. Instead of putting 0 at the front, as close to the middle as you think you can be, let that be 0. So I'll put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 little notches after 0. I'm going to do the same thing in front of 0. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If that's 0, I'm going to go ahead and label just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. But the same would be said for what goes in front of 0. So there are now going to be numbers less than 0. So if 0 is here, this would be -1. If you go one farther, you're at -2. One farther, -3, -4, -5, -6. All of these are lower than 0. They are smaller than 0. They have less of a value than even 0 has. And 0 is nothing. So if you are at -1, you are 1 behind 0. 1 less than 0. -2, 2 behind 0. 2 less than 0. The farther negative you go, the farther away from 0 you are. So -6 is actually smaller than -1 because it's farther from 0. When there is a negative in front of a number, it's worth less. So -6 is smaller than -5 because -6 is farther away from 0. -1 is greater than -3 because it's closer to 0. So we're going to do a couple of things because most of what this is us comparing numbers. So I want to make sure that this, let's do this. Let's do another number line. So I'm going to ask you to give me another line across your page and have the little arrows to show that those numbers would continue, because after -6 would be -7, after positive 6, or normal regular 6 would be a normal regular positive 7. So again, I'm going to try to put 0 just as close to the middle as I think I can get. I'm going to put as close to this side as I can be. I'm going to let this be negative 100. So instead of me going negative 99, negative 98, I'm going to go by tens. So if this is negative 100, this would be negative 90. My number is going to get smaller because I'm going to be getting closer to 0. If that's negative 90, I have negative 80, negative 60, no, sorry, 70, 90, 80, 70, sorry, negative 60, this would be negative 50. I would have negative 40, negative 30, negative 20, negative 10, here's 0. And then from there, you continue on with positive. So instead of me being 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, I'm going to continue by 10. So if this is 0, this is going to be positive 10, regular 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, regular 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, regular positive 100, normal 100. The farther right you go, so no matter what the starting number is, no matter if the first number is negative 6 or negative 100, the farther right you go, the greater the value of the number actually is, which means that 0 is greater than negative 40 because it's further right on your number line. 10 is greater than 0. It's farther right on your number line. You might want to make an L for left on this side, and then an R for right on this side. The closer, or not closer, but the farther right you go, the more your number actually is worth. So this would be negative 10. Negative 10 is farther right than negative 50. It's closer to my R. So this negative 10 actually holds more value. It is larger than negative 50. It's also larger than negative 50 because it's just closer to 0. I'm going to ask you to give me a sentence that you're going to highlight. I'm going to put the farther right, and underneath right, I'm going to put an arrow that points to the right. A number is on a number line. The greater value the number has. The farther right a number is on a number line, I'm going to highlight this whole sentence, the greater value that number has. If this one was positive 10, positive 20, positive 30, positive 40, 50 is greater than 10. We all know that, but it's also greater than 10, and I can tell it's greater than 10 because it's farther right on my number line. If that's 50, that would be positive 60, 70, 80, 90, and then 100. 90 is greater than negative 10 because it is farther right on my number line. This would be negative 20. This would have been negative 30, negative 40. This is negative 50. This one would be negative 60, negative 70, negative 80, negative 90, and negative 100's down here on the bottom for me. A positive 40 is greater than a negative 20 because it's farther right on my number line. The farther you go, the greater the value is. Negative 30 is actually greater than negative 60 because it's farther right on my number line. It's also because these negative numbers, they're greater if they are closer to 0. Okay, -1 is greater than -2. Yes, it's farther right, but also because it's closer to 0. A big part of this standard would be you guys being able to compare inequalities. So I'm going to give myself a bullet point, and I'm going to put comparing inequalities. And anytime you compare, we're using those greater than or less than symbols. None of these are going to be equal to. And if you want to put those little teeth in, okay, the mouth's going to open to your bigger number. So I'm going to give myself 3 options, and then I'm going to draw a number line in. So I'm going to put -6, and then a line, and -4. We're going to compare those two numbers. I'm going to put 4 and 6. If there's no symbol, there's no little minus sign, it's just positive. So this is a positive, normal, regular 4, positive, normal, -6. And then I want to compare 0 and -4. Now, if you can already see what you need, sorry, I have to move. That's great. If you can't, that's fine too. I'm going to draw a number line here. So I'll put -6, -5, -4, -3, -2, that's a big jump, -1, that would be 0, that would be 1, that would be 2, that would be 3, that would be 4, that would be 5, that would be 6. The farther right on your number line that number is, the bigger that number is, the greater value that number holds. So if they want us to compare -6 and -4, -6 is here, -4 is here. -4 is greater for 2 reasons. 1, because it's farther to the right, it's closer to the R. It's also greater because it's actually closer to 0. It's 4 spots away from 0 instead of 6 spots away from 0. The farther you go left, the smaller that number actually is. -6 is smaller than -1. It's farther away from 0. So your mouth is going to open to the bigger number. -4 is greater. It's closer to 0. When you look at normal 4, normal 6, I know you know that 6 is greater than 4, but it's greater because it's farther right on my number line. 0 and -4. -4 is already highlighted. Here's 0. I know that 0 is greater than -4 because it's farther right on my number line. And -4 really means 4 behind 0, 4 less than 0. You're taking 4 from 0 when you already don't have anything to start with. I want to do, well, we're going to end up doing 9 more, but I want to do little sets of 3 so that you can see it. So we're going to do 3 more, but we'll have 9 more that we're going to fill in. I'm at the bottom of the page that I have, so I'm going to push this off. I want to compare the numbers 10 and -1. I want to compare the numbers -10 and +1, regular 1, and then -1 and -10. So I have some pretty familiar numbers here, which means I'm going to go and make a number line that goes from a -10 to a +10. If you can already see what you would need, you already know how you would put the greater than, less than symbols. You already see that your mouth would open to the bigger number. That's fine. Just humor me, okay? I'm going to start at -10. So I'm going to put negative 9, negative 8, negative 7, negative 6, negative 5, negative 4, negative 3, negative 2, negative 1. Now we're back at 0. This would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm running out of room. That's 9. That would be 10. I started skipping over here, but if that doesn't help you and you need to fill in so your brain can literally see every single number, do that. The left is on this side, the right is on this side. The farther right the number is, the greater value that number holds. So this is 10. There's no little minus sign, which means that is normal, regular, positive 10. Negative 1 is way over here. 10 is greater for 2 reasons. 1, it's farther right on my number line. And 2, this is 1 less than 0, 1 behind 0. This is 10 in front of, 10 greater than 0. It's farther right, and it's above 0. It holds more value. It wants me to compare negative 10 to a positive 1. It doesn't have a little minus sign, so it's normal, regular 1. 1 is farther to the right than negative 10, which means it's greater. This is also 10 less than 0. Okay, it's 10 smaller than 0. This would have been 1 less than 0. Okay, 1 smaller than 0. This one, they're asking you to compare 2 numbers that you already have highlighted. Negative 1 is here. Negative 10 was over here. Negative 1 is farther to the right, which tells me that it's a greater number. It's also a greater number because this is only 1 less than 0, while this one is 10 less than 0, which means you would have to make up 10 just to get back to 0. This one you only have to make up 1 to get back to 0. The farther away from 0 you get going to the left, the smaller that number is. Same thing. Okay, I have 2 more that I'd like to try. These ones, I'm actually going to do the next one. Let's do comparing negative 7 and negative 5. Let's try negative 7 and 0, and then positive 7 compared to negative 7. I'm going to try to make a number line that goes from negative 7 to positive 7, because those would incorporate, hang on, I got to put this down for a second. Those would incorporate the numbers that I need. So I'm going to put my little arrows, which means that the numbers would continue. I'm going to have negative 7, negative 6, negative 5, negative 4, negative 3, negative 2, negative 1. Now we're back to 0. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We'll throw 8 on there just because I have some space. So mine's going from negative 7, counting backwards down to 0, negative 6, negative 5, negative 4, all the way down to 0. And then I'm going from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I put mine to 8 just because I had some space. The left is on this side. The right is on this side. It's asking us to compare, or I'm asking us to compare negative 7 and negative 5. Negative 5 is greater for 2 reasons. 1, it's farther right. It's closer to the R than the negative 7 is. Also, because this means 7 less than 0, while this only means 5 less than 0. Okay, it's closer to 0. You would only have to make up 5 to get back to 0 to be even at 0, okay? Have nothing. You would have to make up 7 just to get back to 0. This is asking us to compare -7 and 0. 0 is greater for 2 reasons. 1, it's farther to the right than -7 because -7's over here. Also, this is 7 less than 0. So it's asking you to compare 7 less than 0 with 0. But you would have to make up 7 just to get back to where this number already stands. 0 is greater. This one wants us to compare normal +7. I know it's regular 7 because there's no symbol there. And -7, which we already have highlighted way over here. +7 is greater than -7. 1, because it's farther to the right. And 2, positive numbers mean more. So this is actually 7 more than 0. Where this one is actually 7 less than 0. Positive numbers, if there's no symbol there, it's that number more than 0. So +4 is 4 more than 0. Whereas -2 is 2 less. The farther right you are on a number line, the more value a number holds. I'm going to try some numbers that are bigger, okay? I'm going to say I want to compare -76 with -59. I want to compare 0 with 76. And I want to compare 59 with -59. When I go to make my number line, and I'm going to set this down for just a second, I'm going to make a line that goes all the way across my paper. And because my numbers are larger, I'm not going to be able to do every single one, which means I'm going to try to just go by tens instead. So as close to the middle as I think I can get, I'm going to start with 0. I am going to put those little arrows on the end to mean that the numbers would continue on. And instead of starting this at -1, I'm going to go by tens. So I'm going to say this is -10. I'm going to say that that would be -20. I'm going to say that that's -30. If that doesn't help you to leave it blank, fill it in so that your brain can see it. After -30, if I'm counting by tens, -40. -50. -60. -70. -80. I'm going to continue with tens, but if it's in front, if it's farther right, these are positive. So that would be normal, regular 10, normal, regular 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, that would be 80 for me. Okay, it doesn't have to be perfect, it's just a number line for your notebook. If we want to compare -76 and -59, we don't have those numbers exactly on our number line, but I know that -76 would be between -70 and -80. I also know that 75 would be halfway between, and that's 1 greater. So I'm going to go a little farther than halfway, and I'm going to say that that's roughly where 76 would be, which means not perfect, but it's pretty close. -59 would be between -50 and -60, but it's 1 less than -60, so I'm going to go pretty close to -60. Now, the left is still over here. The right is still over here. Negative 59 would be greater for 2 reasons. 1, it's farther right, it's closer to the R than negative 76 is. This also means that it is 59 less than 0, whereas this one is 76 less than 0. You would have to make up 76 just to get back to 0. Here, you're only making up 59. It's bigger, it's closer to 0, and it's farther to the right. This is asking me for 0 and 76. There's no little minus sign, so that means a normal, regular, positive 76. So 0's here. 76 would be between 70 and 80. 75 would be the midway point, and 76 is one more. So when I go between 70 and 80, I'm going to go a little closer to 80. So I'll say roughly, here's 76. It's not perfect. Oh, can I get it? There we go. Not perfect, but decent. If I'm comparing these two numbers, 76 would be greater. 1, because it's farther to the right. And 2, this actually means 76 more than 0, where that's just 0. The last one wants us to compare 59 and negative 59. Negative 59 I already have, so I'm just going to keep it. I already have it. And then regular 59 is still between 50 and 60, but it is closer to 60. So I'm going to put it roughly here. Probably not perfect, but good enough. So here's regular 59, positive 59, because if there's no symbol, it's a positive number, and negative 59, which is way over here. Positive is greater for 2 reasons, and the mouth is always going to open to your bigger number. It is farther to the right, closer to the R, and this actually means 59 more than 0. Whereas this one means 59 less than 0. That minus sign goes with less. Okay, it's 59 less than 0. This is getting long, so I'm going to stop it here. I've already made the exit tickets, and I cut them into 3 parts. So the first part is actually 10 questions, where I'm not giving you 3, I'm just giving you one little thing. So it would be something similar to 0 and 76, and you just use the drop down and make the mouth point to the greater number. And then there's some true false. Like one of them would say that negative 76 is greater than negative 59, and you would select false because negative 59 is actually your bigger number because it's closer to 0. So there's 10 like that. I'll make a video for ordering in just a second. That goes with the second exit ticket, and then they ask us to look at very simple word problems. I want to look at that too. So this would be the first video for the first exit ticket.